Hi everyone, it's Vicki and welcome to my ugly kitchen. Yes, it really is an ugly kitchen. Don't worry, it doesn't hurt my feelings. Today I am going to make cioppino. And what I like about cioppino is you can make the sauce earlier, a day earlier or something, which was my intent yesterday, but I did not quite get to it. But you can make it earlier, set it aside, then you and your guests can have salad or a visit or whatever you want to do, and then when you're ready, at the last minute, throw the seafood in because it doesn't take long to cook. So that's what I'm going to do. It's the morning, I'm going to make it, and then in the afternoon, I'm going to have, of course, my husband and I, my mom, a good friend of mine, and then two of my neighbors. They're having a kind of a neighborhood concert tonight in someone's driveway, so I thought that would be nice if we could all, have a dinner and then go over to the concert. So this cioppino recipe I've been using for 20 years out of this book. It is Bon Appetit's dinner party cookbook. It's on page 19 in this book. If you're not familiar with cioppino, it is an Italian fish stew, I think is the technical description of it. You can use any kind of seafood and fish in it that you prefer. A lot of people put mussels and they look really attractive in there, but I do not like mussels. So you're not going to find that in mine. But I did buy some frozen scallops because I didn't like the look of the fresh ones. And plus the frozen ones were a little better size, I think, for this dish. I bought some Dungeness crab legs. I bought some cod. I bought some little neck clams. And I think I bought one other thing, but I can't remember what it is right now. So it'll just be a nice assortment of seafood. So let's get cooking in my ugly kitchen. Okay, these are the items that I'm going to use today in making my cioppino. And they include garlic, olive oil, sugar, salt, Louisiana hot sauce, crushed red peppers, onions, bell peppers, clam juice, tomatoes, V8, red wine, white wine, Italian seasoning, tomato paste, parsley, celery, and a big pot. And cioppino is just not the same without bread. Normally it's French bread, but I found this big beefy Italian bread. What I really like with it is sourdough bread, but I just don't seem to find that in my local Publix. And so these are the items. Let's get cooking. Okay, my first step is going to be to boil water. Ooh, camera's moving on the tripod. I'm using my new camera, so getting used to it. So first thing I'm going to do is boil water, and I am doing that so I can throw tomatoes in and I can blanch them, because I have learned over the years that it is much easier to peel them if you blanch them first. And this recipe calls for 4 tomatoes to be peeled, seeded, and diced. Okay, the tomatoes are in the boiling water, and they only have to be there for like a minute. And then I'm going to plunge them into this ice water. It did occur to me that I could have bought them already chopped, seeded, and peeled and all of that. But I didn't. I bought fresh tomatoes, so oh well. And while all of that was happening, I was able to start chopping the other vegetables. I have to chop 2 large bell peppers, 2 large onions, and some celery. So let's take a look at these tomatoes here. Now we're not cooking the tomatoes. Ooh, ow, I just dragged some cold water onto the burner. You heard that noise. All that we're doing is, this compromises the skin in some way. I don't really know the science of it, but I know this is the way I've always done it. It's probably a better way. And you probably don't even really have to do this part, but it just makes them easier to handle. So we have another 30 seconds or so. You don't leave them in long. It's like a minute or 2 minutes is all it takes. So let's just get one out. Okay, here's one, and I was using a slotted spoon thing. These aren't the prettiest tomatoes ever, but that's because they are off the vine ones, and whoa. And I have learned that pretty produce doesn't mean flavorful produce. In fact, I'd almost guess to say it's the opposite. Okay, tomatoes are in place. I'm going to give them just a minute to cool down. and then we'll start peeling tomatoes. And just in case you're wondering, why in the world would you go to the trouble of peeling a tomato? It's not hard. Look at this. I haven't even touched it, and it's already, the skin's already sloughing off, and I haven't even touched them. So it's not a big deal. Okay, just to show you one that didn't slough off on its own, all you have to do is just stick your fingernail in there and peel. I'm trying to do it without looking at the tomato. Look at the viewfinder. That doesn't work as well. It just comes right off, just so easily. You know, there are recipes, plenty of recipes where you can leave the peel on the tomato, but some of this one and when I make paella, it just doesn't, you get this kind of, ooh, it's nice and slippery now. You get this, like these, it's almost like hard threads of the potato peel, so it's much nicer to do this and peel it. So you see how easy that was and how quick. Totally worth it. Okay, we have 2 large peppers in there in the pot, and 3/4 cup of olive oil. It's probably more peppers than we need because this cookbook was made in the 80s, and I think bell peppers are a lot bigger now than they were 30 years ago. Next on the chopping block and into the pot is celery. They say 4 to 6 ribs. I'm going to go ahead and do 6 because these are tiny little ribs. Look at them. I'm used to big ones. These are small. So I'm going to go ahead and do all 6, which is very generous because I do not like celery. I don't like the smell of it. I don't like touching it. Nothing. But I know it really adds a lot in cooking. So I'm going to bite the bullet. For me, the worst part of the process is next. And that's because I have a real problem chopping onions. They really get to me. So I'm not going to film anything dealing with the onions because I won't be able to see. And any makeup I put on my eyes this morning is going to end up on my chin. But let's dive in. Okay, the onions are done, and that's why I'm sniffing. I just can't quit past it. Next is 5 cloves of garlic. However, we have all this garlic here, so I didn't buy any more. I hate to buy more when we have all this here that we use. So my understanding is that 1 teaspoon, equals a clove of garlic. So I'm going to put 5 of these in next. Okay, the last item in the pot was the 1/4 cup of minced parsley. I don't know if it's a 1/4 cup, but and it's the garlic and onions, and then down below are the other veggies. These have a lot of sweating to do to get this pot down to where I can fit anything else in there. It's half full with veggies, but typically when it comes time to put the seafood in, I'm often having to move this to a larger pot, but I want to at least get it started in the smaller pot that's more manageable for me. So this is what the tomatoes look like when you've got all the seeds out of them. They look kind of like earlobes as far as I'm concerned. And then you chop them up and they look like that. And this stuff is just going to town here. Whew, steamed up the lens. So the next step is going to be liquids. Okay, the next item is the V8. I've already got the lid off, shook it up. Smells so good. I had a really hard time not drinking it. But I want all that juice, so I'm not even going to spare the 1/4 cup of it. Yes, this is a 46 fluid ounce, I think. Yes, you put the whole thing in. I just got the original. They have other, types, obviously. Next, the wine. The wine. I wasn't sure what to get, so I ended up with Pinot Grigio and this. What I did is I went online, looked at other people's YouTube videos who've made Cioppino or recipes online, and I kind of looked at the wine either that they used or that they served with it, and I thought, well, if they serve with it, certainly they can. It should be good to cook with it. If it's good to drink with it, then one would think that it would be good to cook with it. And not being a drinker, I pretty much don't drink at all. I mean, occasionally at a wedding or New Year's or some event, I might have some champagne or mimosa, but pretty much I don't drink at all. So I was kind of at a loss. So that was my thought. Now, if you know what, get the whole thing off of there. if you know a better wine for this type of dish, it's a red sauce, and it's usually typically a spicy red sauce, has red pepper flakes, stuff in it, tomato based, and then a bunch of seafood in it. So it's kind of like, almost sounds like a red and a white, which is what's in this recipe. A lot of the recipes though only call for white. So let's get this bottle open here. But if you know of something that's better, let me back it up a little bit. Went too far down in the cork. Hopefully my dinner guests will drink the rest of this wine because, like I say, I don't really drink. Not bad at opening a bottle of wine for a non-drinker. There we go. So, time to pour the wine in. The white wine, I just noticed, is going to be a little bit easier. I wanted to say something about the tomatoes, and I failed to say earlier, and that is, well, why don't I just hold the wine while I do it? Look like a real lush here. One of the reasons that I do take that extra step, and it only adds probably 5 minutes to your time, is because I read something that some of the food processors, when they can and they make fruits and vegetables that have the peel removed, that they did it using chemicals. And so that's why I would prefer to just use the whole old-fashioned blanching and not worry about having chemicals. So let's go pour some wine in our broth. So 1.5 cups, 1 cup of white, half cup of white. One cup of red, half cup of red. I think that probably is the end of my measuring. I measured a 3/4 cup of olive oil to start this process and cook the vegetables in it, and then measured the wine, but everything else there's been no measuring. So if you don't like measuring, this is a good recipe for you. Okay, I just stirred in 1 6-ounce can of tomato paste. I don't know if I got that on film or not, but that's all right. Just regular old generic Publix brand, nothing special, nothing fancy for this dish. Next into the pot are all the beautiful tomatoes that I diced and seeded. And next into the pot is Italian seasoning. The recipe calls for 1 tablespoon plus 2 teaspoons. So I guess we're back to measuring. It seems like a lot. I'm going to go on the light side of that tablespoon. The recipe calls for chilies, but I don't really have any, so I'm just going to add crushed red pepper. I have a variety of people coming, some I know who do not like spice and some who do. So I'm going to start on the low side of the red chilies, and I did buy some Tabasco, well, it's not Tabasco, but it's a Louisiana hot sauce, so those who like spice can amp up their dish. So let's get this back on the burner that has heat. Okay, so everything's in here. We ended up adding some sugar. I think that's because of acidity, and I think it was 2 teaspoons, and some salt and fresh ground pepper to taste. The only missing thing I had, and I did put a little bit of hot sauce in there, and I tasted and we're okay, nothing's too spicy. The only thing missing from this is bay leaf. I thought I had it, so I didn't buy any at the store, but now I remember the last thing I made, I used all of the last of my bay leaf, but that's okay. It's, I don't think, going to make a huge difference with all that Italian seasoning in there, but I have always used it in the past. So we're going to bring this to a simmer, or a boil really, and then we're going to reduce it and simmer it for 30 minutes. And then it's going, the next thing that goes in is the seafood, but we're not eating for a few hours yet. So it will just be allowed to sit and blend. The recipe suggests that you make this the night before and it's refrigerated overnight so the flavors can blend. So I'm not going to have one overnight, but I'll probably have a 2-hour blend at least. Okay. this is what's happening next. Dungeness. Patagonian scallops, which I've never tried before. That's why there's not that many. Scallops are my favorite seafood, but because I've never had this kind, I'm limiting it. Some whitefish, which happens to be cod. Some little neck clams, parsley, and some very fresh shrimp that I had to shell in today, and that took a while. So they are all going to go into this bigger pot. Yeah, I had to move up. The grease you see on the top isn't no sort of animal fat. That is just olive oil from when I sweated the vegetables. So we are going to start with the fish. Okay. I might have to adjust the temperature up a little bit. We had to keep turning it down. This big pot is just a stainless steel pot, so it doesn't have a lot on the bottom, and heat goes right up there. And let's see, what was the, and the clams. So up there, see it's starting already. I just turned it up a second ago, and there it goes. Uh-oh, I'm going to open one. I don't know. I'm not going to use that one. Okay, I got a partially open one here. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just going to leave those two out. Alright, so let's let the fish and the clams stew for a moment. Close. Alright, is it steaming up? No? Okay, so now I got shrimp. A whole bunch of them. They were freshly caught, so I couldn't resist.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Yeah, so I'm getting it. Okay. Alright, so now we'll put in some scallops, which these are so little, it seems too early to put them in, but I'm going to put them in anyway. Yeah, and then the last item are the Dungeness crab legs.
Good.
Oh my gosh, those look so good.
And they're pre-cooked.
Oh.
So, of course, crab is always pre-cooked. But what it'll do is they will pick up the sauce flavor and they'll add. And I noticed having a little piece of meat out of it that fell out, and my mom did too, that the meat was really salty. So hopefully...
Oh, so this will cut that down.
I hope it doesn't oversalt the broth.
I think it'll be fine.
But the broth isn't salty, so...
Oh my God.
As Alice can contest, I am not a salt lover. When it comes to like snacks, I like sugary snacks, not savory snacks.
I like salty.
I do too.
Do you?
Not me.
And Carol's more like sweet and...
Me too. Me too. All right, so let's put
Salty and sweet together is good.
All right,
yeah.
so now we have a big old pot.
And so how long do you leave that in there?
Well, it would be just a few minutes, but because we're going to eat a salad, I'm just going to like
Turn it down
to low one burner, cover it,
Okay.
and then we'll eat our salad.
Okay.
Oh, forgot the very last thing is fresh parsley.
Dressing over here, that 1905 dressing, or did you?
Yeah, I think it's in the. No, I think it's in the pantry. I'll do it. All completed.
We're going to have those paper towels passed around for sure.
Yeah.
This is definitely a paper towel meal.
Paper towel.
We're gonna,
Yeah.